In 1095 CE, Pope Urban II delivered a speech that would reshape the relationship between the Islamic and Christian worlds forever. He called for a holy war to recapture Jerusalem from Muslim rule, launching what we now know as the Crusades. But here's what's fascinating. From the Islamic perspective, these weren't initially seen as a clash of civilizations, but rather as another Byzantine attempt to reclaim lost territory. The Islamic world in 1095 was deeply fragmented. The Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad was a figurehead. The Fatimids controlled Egypt and southern Syria. The Seljuk Empire was breaking apart into competing successor states. Local emirs governed individual cities, often fighting each other as much as any external enemy. This fragmentation explains how the First Crusades succeeded so dramatically. When European armies arrived in 1097, they found a divided Islamic world, incapable of coordinated resistance. The Crusaders established 4 states: the Kingdom of Jerusalem, the Principality of Antioch, the County of Edessa, and the County of Tripoli. But here's what's fascinating. From the Islamic perspective, these weren't initially seen as a clash of civilizations, but rather as another Byzantine attempt to reclaim lost territory. The Crusader success was built on unstable foundations. They ruled as a tiny minority over predominantly Muslim populations, dependent on constant reinforcement from Europe and cooperation from Italian maritime republics for supplies. More importantly, they had inadvertently created the perfect motivation for Islamic unity. The first signs of Islamic resurgence came with Zengi, the Atabeg of Mosul and Aleppo. In 1144, he recaptured Edessa, becoming the first Muslim leader to successfully push back against the Crusader states. His son, Nur al-Din, continued this work, but more importantly, he began framing the struggle against the Crusaders as a jihad, a holy war to defend Islamic lands. Nur al-Din's greatest achievement wasn't military, but ideological. He revived the concept of jihad as a unifying principle, built madrasas to educate a new generation of Islamic scholars committed to reconquest, and most importantly, he placed his best general in charge of Egypt, a Kurdish warrior named Salah al-Din Yusuf ibn Ayyub, known to history as Saladin. Saladin's rise reads like something from a medieval novel. Born into a Kurdish military family, he initially served the Zengids reluctantly. But when he became ruler of Egypt in 1171, he revealed himself as a master strategist with a vision that extended far beyond personal ambition. First, Saladin eliminated the Fatimid Caliphate, returning Egypt to Sunni Islam and acknowledging the nominal authority of the Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad. This wasn't just a religious decision, it was a strategic masterstroke that allowed him to present himself as the defender of Orthodox Islam against both Shia heretics and Christian invaders. Then he began the patient work of unifying the Islamic world. One by one, he absorbed the Zengid territories in Syria and northern Mesopotamia, always presenting himself as a liberator rather than a conqueror. By 1187, he controlled a unified state stretching from Egypt to northern Syria, exactly the kind of coordinated Islamic power the Crusader states couldn't withstand. The Battle of Hattin on July 4, 1187, was one of those moments that changed the course of history. Saladin lured the entire army of the Kingdom of Jerusalem into the desert, then systematically destroyed it. King Guy of Jerusalem, the Grand Masters of the Templars and Hospitallers, and nearly every major Crusader noble were captured. 3 months later, Saladin stood before the walls of Jerusalem. The city that had taken the first Crusaders 3 years to capture fell to Saladin in just 12 days. But here's what made Saladin legendary: his treatment of the conquered city. Unlike the Crusaders in 1099, who had massacred the Muslim and Jewish populations, Saladin allowed Christians to ransom themselves or leave safely. This chivalrous behavior wasn't just good politics. It reflected genuine Islamic principles about the conduct of war and the treatment of non-Muslims. Medieval Islamic law had developed sophisticated rules about warfare that emphasized protection of civilians, proper treatment of prisoners, and respect for religious sites. Saladin's reconquest of Jerusalem shocked Christian Europe and launched the Third Crusade, featuring some of history's most famous names: Richard the Lionheart of England, Philip Augustus of France, and Frederick Barbarossa of the Holy Roman Empire. This crusade became the stuff of legend, with Saladin and Richard developing a mutual respect despite being enemies. But the Third Crusade revealed something important about the changing nature of Christian-Muslim relations. Unlike the First Crusade, which was driven by religious fervor and resulted in massacres, the Third Crusade was conducted with a certain code of chivalric honor. Both sides recognized each other as worthy opponents, following similar codes of conduct. The Crusades also had unexpected consequences for both civilizations. European contact with the Islamic world introduced Christian Europe to advanced Islamic science, philosophy, and technology. The translation movement now flowed in reverse, with Islamic texts being translated into Latin and becoming the foundation for Europe's medieval universities. Islamic medicine, mathematics, and philosophy profoundly influenced European thought. The works of Ibn Rushd, Averroes, and Ibn Sina, Avicenna, became standard texts in European universities. Islamic architectural innovations influenced Gothic cathedral design. Even the concept of courtly love and chivalric romance was influenced by Islamic literary traditions. For the Islamic world, the Crusades served as a unifying force that helped overcome centuries of political fragmentation. The success of leaders like Saladin demonstrated that a unified Islamic response could defeat external threats, setting a precedent for future Islamic resistance to foreign invasion. The Ayyubid dynasty that Saladin established would rule Egypt and Syria for nearly a century, but they would face an even greater threat than the Crusaders, one that would fundamentally reshape the Islamic world and nearly destroy Islamic civilization entirely.
If the Crusades were a flesh wound, the Mongol invasions were a near-fatal blow to Islamic civilization. In 1258, Hulagu Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan, stood before the walls of Baghdad with an army unlike anything the Islamic world had ever faced. What happened next was one of history's greatest catastrophes. The siege of Baghdad lasted just 12 days. When it ended, the city that had been the intellectual center of the world for 5 centuries lay in ruins. The Mongols destroyed the House of Wisdom, throwing countless irreplaceable manuscripts into the Tigris River. According to contemporary accounts, the river ran black with ink for days. But the destruction went far beyond books. The last Abbasid Caliph, Al-Mustasim, was executed along with most of his family, ending a dynasty that had ruled for over 500 years. Hundreds of thousands of Baghdad's residents were killed. The sophisticated irrigation systems that had made Mesopotamia the garden of the world were destroyed and never fully rebuilt. The Mongol invasions were unlike anything the Islamic world had experienced. Previous conquerors, Arabs, Turks, even Crusaders, had sought to rule existing systems. The Mongols often preferred to destroy completely, creating a blank slate for their nomadic administration. Entire cities were wiped off the map. Iran and Central Asia's urban civilization was set back centuries. Yet, from this apparent end came an unexpected transformation. As Mongol rulers settled into their conquests, many converted to Islam. Ghazan Khan of the Ilkhanate in Iran became Muslim in 1295, beginning a remarkable period of Islamic Renaissance under Mongol patronage. The Mongol period produced some of Islamic civilization's greatest achievements. In Iran, the Mongols patronized a flowering of Persian literature and art. This was the era of Hafez and Sadi, poets whose works are still beloved throughout the Persian-speaking world. The distinctive Persian miniature painting tradition reached its classical form under Mongol patronage. More importantly, the Mongol peace, the Pax Mongolica, created unprecedented opportunities for cultural and commercial exchange. The Silk Road reached its medieval peak, carrying not just goods, but ideas, technologies, and cultural practices across Eurasia. Islamic scholars and merchants traveled safely from Spain to China for the first time in centuries. The famous Moroccan traveler Ibn Battuta could journey from Tangier to Beijing because Mongol rulers provided safe passage across their domains. His accounts give us an unparalleled view of 14th century Islamic civilization's incredible diversity, from the mosques of Mali to the courts of Delhi. The Mongol period also saw Islam's continued expansion into new regions. In Southeast Asia, Muslim merchants and Sufi missionaries established Islamic communities that would eventually become Indonesia and Malaysia, today the world's largest Muslim populations. In West Africa, the Mali Empire, under rulers like Mansa Musa, became a major Islamic power, with Timbuktu emerging as a center of Islamic learning. But perhaps the most significant development was the rise of the Mamluks in Egypt and Syria. These former slave soldiers had seized power in 1250 and established a military state that would become the Islamic world's primary defender against both Mongols and the remaining Crusader states. The Mamluks were military perfectionists. They developed the world's most sophisticated cavalry tactics and became masters of siege warfare. In 1260, they inflicted the first major defeat on a Mongol army at the Battle of Ain Jalut, stopping Mongol expansion into Africa and the Eastern Mediterranean. Over the next 30 years, they systematically eliminated the last Crusader strongholds, ending nearly 2 centuries of Crusader presence in the Levant. Under Mamluk rule, Cairo became the Islamic world's de facto capital. The sultans patronized architecture, scholarship, and trade on a magnificent scale. The stunning madrasas and mosques they built still dominate Cairo's skyline today. They also maintained the Islamic world's most extensive diplomatic network, exchanging embassies with European powers, African kingdoms, and Asian states. Meanwhile, in Anatolia, another power was rising that would reshape not just the Islamic world, but global history. The Ottoman Beylik, a small Turkish frontier principality, had emerged in the chaos following the Seljuk Empire's collapse. Under leaders like Osman I and his successors, they began expanding into both Byzantine and Islamic territories. The Ottomans represented something new in Islamic history, a synthesis of Turkish military prowess, Islamic law, and Byzantine administrative sophistication. They weren't just conquerors, but institution builders, creating systems of government that could manage incredible diversity across 3 continents.
The fall of Constantinople on May 29, 1453, was one of those moments that marks the end of one era and the beginning of another. When Sultan Mehmed II's cannons finally breached the Theodosian walls that had protected the Byzantine capital for over 1,000 years, it wasn't just the end of the last remnant of the Roman Empire. It was the announcement that the Islamic world had entered the Gunpowder Age. Mehmed II, just 21 years old when he conquered Constantinople, earned his title the Conqueror through more than military success. He transformed the city into Istanbul, making it the capital of an Islamic empire that would dominate 3 continents for the next 4 centuries. But his vision extended beyond conquest to cultural synthesis. The Ottomans developed what historians call the millet system, a form of governance that allowed religious and ethnic communities to maintain their own laws and customs while remaining loyal to the Ottoman state. Orthodox Christians, Armenian Christians, Jews, and various Muslim communities each had their own leaders and legal systems. It was a pragmatic solution to governing incredible diversity that worked remarkably well for centuries. Under Suleiman the Magnificent, 1520 to 1566, the Ottoman Empire reached its zenith. His armies besieged Vienna twice, controlled most of Hungary, and made the Ottoman navy dominant in both the Mediterranean and Indian Ocean. But his greatest achievement wasn't military, it was legal and administrative. Suleiman earned his Turkish title Kanuni, the lawgiver, by systematizing Ottoman law, creating a legal framework that balanced Islamic Sharia with practical administrative needs. The Ottoman system became a model for effective governance that influenced legal systems across Europe and the Islamic world. The Ottoman court in Istanbul became one of the world's most magnificent. The Topkapi Palace, with its intricate tilework, lush gardens, and stunning views of the Bosphorus, housed a sophisticated bureaucracy that administered an empire stretching from Algeria to Yemen, from Hungary to Iraq. The Ottoman system of training elite administrators through the devshirme, recruiting Christian boys, converting them to Islam, and educating them in palace schools, created one of history's most efficient administrative classes. Ottoman architecture reached sublime heights during this period. Mimar Sinan, often called the Islamic world's greatest architect, designed hundreds of buildings, including the magnificent Süleymaniye Mosque in Istanbul. His masterpiece, the Selimiye Mosque in Edirne, achieved what Byzantine architects had struggled with for centuries, a perfect integration of dome and space that rivals the Hagia Sophia in beauty and surpasses it in structural innovation. But the Ottomans weren't the Islamic world's only gunpowder empire. In Iran, the Safavids established a Shia Islamic state in 1501 under Shah Ismail I. The Safavids made Shia Islam Iran's official religion, creating the religious identity that still defines Iran today. Their capital, Isfahan, became one of the world's most beautiful cities, with its stunning mosques, bridges, and bazaars, earning the Persian saying, Isfahan Nesf Jahan. Isfahan is half the world. The Safavid-Ottoman rivalry dominated Middle Eastern politics for over 2 centuries. These weren't just territorial conflicts, but religious wars between Sunni and Shia Islam, with each empire claiming to represent true Islamic orthodoxy. The battles of Chaldiran, 1514, and others shaped the modern borders between Turkey, Iran, and Iraq. Meanwhile, in India, Babur, a descendant of both Genghis Khan and Tamerlane, established the Mughal Empire in 1526. The Mughals created the richest empire of the early modern world, controlling the Indian subcontinent's vast wealth and population. Under Akbar the Great, 1556 to 1605, they developed a sophisticated policy of religious tolerance that allowed Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, and other communities to coexist peacefully. Akbar's court attracted scholars, artists, and mystics from across the Islamic world and beyond. The Mughal artistic synthesis, combining Persian, Turkish, and Indian traditions, produced some of history's most beautiful architecture and artwork. The Taj Mahal, built by Shah Jahan as a tomb for his beloved wife Mumtaz, remains one of the world's most recognizable symbols of Islamic civilization. These 3 empires, Ottoman, Safavid, and Mughal, controlled most of the Islamic world's population and wealth by 1600. They were global powers that European states treated as equals, sought as allies, and feared as enemies.
Ottoman, Persian, and Mughal courts were centers of learning, art, and culture that rivaled anything in Europe or China. The gunpowder empires also facilitated Islam's continued expansion. Ottoman control of sea routes helped spread Islam in Southeast Asia. Mughal rule in India led to millions of conversions. Sufi missionaries, protected by imperial power, carried Islamic teachings to new regions in Africa, Asia, and the Indian Ocean islands. Trade networks reached unprecedented sophistication under these empires. The Indian Ocean became an Islamic commercial highway connecting East Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, India, and Southeast Asia. Islamic law provided the legal framework for international commerce, while Islamic banking practices facilitated long-distance trade. Yet, by 1600, subtle signs of future challenges were emerging. European maritime powers, Portugal, Spain, the Dutch Republic, and England, were establishing direct trade routes to Asia that bypassed traditional Islamic intermediaries. New World silver was inflating prices throughout the Islamic world. Most ominously, European military technology was advancing at a pace that would soon challenge Islamic supremacy.
The American sound in Tang style. The Battle of Lepanto in 1571 marked a turning point that few recognized at the time. When a Christian coalition defeated the Ottoman fleet in the Mediterranean, it wasn't just a naval victory, it was a signal that European power was beginning to match Islamic might. But the real transformation came more gradually, through economic and technological changes that would reshape the global balance of power. By 1700, the great Islamic empires faced unprecedented challenges. The discovery of sea routes to India and China had reduced the Islamic world's role as intermediary in global trade. New World silver had caused massive inflation throughout Islamic territories. Most critically, European military technology was advancing faster than Islamic states could adapt. The Ottomans faced this challenge first and most directly. The failed siege of Vienna in 1683 marked the beginning of a long retreat from European territories. In the Treaty of Karlowitz, 1699, the Ottomans ceded territory to European powers for the first time in their history. The empire that had once threatened the heart of Europe now found itself on the defensive. But decline wasn't uniform across the Islamic world. While the great empires struggled, new Islamic movements emerged that would profoundly influence the modern Islamic world. In the Arabian Peninsula, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab formed an alliance with Muhammad ibn Saud in 1744, creating the religious political movement we now call Wahhabism. The Wahhabi movement called for a return to what they saw as pure Islamic practices, rejecting what they considered innovations and corruptions that had accumulated over centuries. This wasn't just religious reform, it was a complete social and political program that challenged both Ottoman authority and traditional Islamic scholarship. In West Africa, a series of Islamic revival movements emerged in the 18th and 19th centuries. Leaders like Usman Dan Fodio in what is now Nigeria established Islamic states based on strict application of Islamic law. These movements combined religious reform with resistance to both traditional African rulers and growing European influence. The Islamic world's encounter with European colonialism began gradually, then accelerated dramatically. The British East India Company's victory at the Battle of Plassey in 1757 marked the beginning of European control over the Mughal Empire. Napoleon's invasion of Egypt, 1798 to 1801, brought European military power directly into the Ottoman heartland for the first time since the Crusades. But Islamic responses to these challenges were sophisticated and varied. In Egypt, Muhammad Ali Pasha launched a comprehensive modernization program, building modern armies, establishing new educational institutions, and promoting industrial development. His success was so threatening to European powers that they intervened militarily to prevent Egypt from dismantling the Ottoman Empire entirely. The Ottoman Empire itself underwent extensive reforms during the 19th century. The Tanzimat reforms,
1839 to 1876, attempted to modernize the imperial administration, legal system, and military along European lines while maintaining Islamic identity. New schools, railways, and telegraph systems connected the empire's diverse territories more closely than ever before. These modernization efforts produced a new generation of Islamic intellectuals who grappled with fundamental questions. How could Islamic societies adopt modern technology and institutions while maintaining their religious and cultural identity? Was Islamic civilization compatible with modern science and democratic governance? Jamal al-Din al-Afghani, often called the father of Islamic modernism, argued that Islam and modern science were not only compatible, but that Islamic civilization had historically been more scientific than European civilization. His student Muhammad Abduh in Egypt developed sophisticated theologies that reconciled Islamic doctrine with modern knowledge. But the colonial period also produced more militant responses. The Mahdi's rebellion in Sudan, 1881 to 1899, combined Islamic messianic beliefs with resistance to British and Egyptian control. The uprising created an independent Islamic state that lasted nearly 2 decades before being crushed by superior European firepower. In India, the aftermath of the 1857 rebellion led to complex Islamic responses to British rule. Some Muslims, like Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, advocated cooperation with colonial authorities and Western-style education. Others, like the Deobandi movement, emphasized Islamic education and cultural preservation. Still others began developing ideas about Islamic nationalism that would eventually lead to the creation of Pakistan. The late 19th century also saw Islam's continued expansion into new regions. In Southeast Asia, Islamic kingdoms like Aceh in Indonesia resisted Dutch colonialism for decades. In Africa, Islamic societies from Senegal to Somalia struggled against European partition. These resistance movements often combined traditional Islamic concepts of jihad with modern military and political techniques. The Ottoman Empire's entry into World War I as Germany's ally proved catastrophic. Military defeats, economic collapse, and nationalist rebellions tore the empire apart. The abolition of the Ottoman Caliphate in 1924 by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk marked the end of the last major Islamic empire and left the Islamic world without a unified political leadership for the first time since the 7th century. Yet from these apparent defeats emerged new forms of Islamic political organization. The creation of Saudi Arabia, the emergence of new nation-states in the former Ottoman territories, and the development of Islamic political movements like the Muslim Brotherhood represented different attempts to organize Islamic societies in the modern world.
The 20th century opened with the Islamic world fragmented and largely under European colonial control. By century's end, it had produced dozens of independent nation-states, massive oil wealth, and new forms of Islamic political organization that would reshape global politics. This transformation, marked by both remarkable achievements and profound challenges, continues to influence world affairs today. The discovery of oil in the Persian Gulf, beginning with the first commercial well in Iran in 1908, fundamentally altered the Islamic world's relationship with global power. Countries that had been peripheral to world politics suddenly found themselves central to the global economy. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the UAE, and other Gulf states accumulated unprecedented wealth that they used to influence Islamic societies worldwide. This oil wealth funded everything from magnificent mosques to Islamic universities, from charitable organizations to political movements. The Saudi government used its resources to promote Wahhabi interpretations of Islam globally, establishing madrasas and Islamic centers from Nigeria to Indonesia. This religious influence often conflicted with local Islamic traditions, creating tensions that persist today. The creation of Israel in 1948 and the subsequent Arab-Israeli conflict became a defining issue for modern Islamic politics. The displacement of Palestinian Arabs and the loss of Jerusalem, Islam's third holiest city, created a sense of crisis that unified Islamic societies across sectarian and national boundaries.
The repeated military defeats of Arab armies by Israeli forces challenged traditional Islamic assumptions about divine favor and worldly success. The 1979 Iranian Revolution marked another watershed moment. Ayatollah Khomeini's success in overthrowing the Shah and establishing an Islamic republic showed that Islamic political movements could achieve power in modern states. The revolution inspired Islamic movements worldwide, while also intensifying Sunni-Shia tensions, particularly after the Iran-Iraq War, 1980 to 1988. The Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979 created what many saw as a new crusade against Islam, drawing Muslim fighters from around the world to resist communist occupation. The success of the Afghan Mujahideen, supported by the United States, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia, seemed to validate the effectiveness of Islamic resistance movements and contributed to the Soviet Union's eventual collapse. However, the aftermath of the Afghan conflict also produced more radical interpretations of Islamic activism. The rise of al-Qaeda and similar organizations represented a new form of Islamic politics that rejected the nation-state system entirely, calling for the restoration of a unified Islamic caliphate through violent means. The September 11, 2001 attacks on the United States marked a dramatic escalation in the conflict between radical Islamic movements and Western powers. The subsequent war on terror brought American and European military forces back into the Islamic world on a scale not seen since the colonial period, occupying Afghanistan and Iraq while conducting operations across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. These conflicts revealed both the diversity and complexity of contemporary Islamic societies. While radical movements like al-Qaeda and ISIS attracted global attention, they represented minority positions within the broader Islamic world. Most Islamic societies struggled with the same challenges facing all developing nations: economic development, political representation, social justice, and cultural identity in an increasingly globalized world. The Arab Spring of 2010-2011 demonstrated both the democratic aspirations of many Muslims and the difficulties of political transformation in the Islamic world. Popular movements overthrew long-standing dictatorships in Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, and Yemen, while challenging authoritarian rule across the region. However, the results varied dramatically, from Tunisia's successful democratic transition to Syria's devastating civil war. These uprisings also highlighted the continued relevance of Islamic political movements. Organizations like the Muslim Brotherhood, which had operated underground for decades, suddenly found themselves competing in democratic elections. Their mixed success, winning power in Egypt only to be overthrown by a military coup, illustrated the ongoing tensions between Islamic activism and secular nationalism in many Muslim societies. Contemporary Islamic societies also grapple with questions of gender equality, religious freedom, and social justice that resonate worldwide. Countries like Turkey under Recep Tayyip Erdogan have attempted to combine Islamic identity with democratic governance and economic development. Others, like Iran, have maintained explicitly theocratic systems while allowing significant political debate within Islamic parameters. The rise of ISIS, 2013 to 2019, represented perhaps the most extreme attempt to restore an Islamic caliphate through violence. The organization's ability to control territory, attract foreign fighters, and inspire attacks worldwide demonstrated the continued appeal of radical Islamic ideology, while also provoking a massive international response that ultimately led to its territorial defeat. Yet, alongside these conflicts, Islamic societies have made remarkable contributions to global civilization. Muslim-majority countries have produced Nobel Prize winners in science, literature, and peace. Islamic finance has become a significant sector of the global economy. Muslim artists, entrepreneurs, and intellectuals contribute to every field of human endeavor. The Islamic world today includes over 1.8 billion people across dozens of countries, representing extraordinary diversity in language, culture, and political systems. From Indonesia's democracy to the Gulf's monarchies, from Turkey's secularism to Iran's theocracy, Islamic societies continue to experiment with different models of governance and development.
As we reach the end of our journey through 1,400 years of Islamic history,
it's worth stepping back to consider what this remarkable story tells us about human civilization itself. From a small community in 7th century Arabia, Islam grew to become one of the world's great civilizations, influencing everything from mathematics to architecture, from law to literature. The Islamic world's contributions to human knowledge are staggering. Islamic scholars preserved and expanded upon the learning of ancient Greece, Rome, Persia, and India during Europe's Dark Ages. They developed algebra, advanced astronomy, revolutionized medicine, and created philosophical syntheses that influenced Jewish and Christian thought. Islamic artists and architects created some of humanity's most beautiful buildings, from the Alhambra to the Taj Mahal. But perhaps more importantly, Islamic civilization demonstrated humanity's capacity for creating inclusive, cosmopolitan societies. At its best, the Islamic world brought together people of different ethnicities, religions, and cultures under systems of law that emphasized justice and protection for minorities. The Ottoman millet system, Mughal religious tolerance, and Andalusi convivencia offered models of pluralistic governance that remain relevant today. The Islamic world's contributions to human knowledge are staggering. Islamic scholars preserved and expanded upon the learning of ancient Greece, Rome, Persia, and India during Europe's Dark Ages. They developed algebra, advanced astronomy, revolutionized medicine, and created philosophical syntheses that influenced Jewish and Christian thought. Islamic artists and architects created some of humanity's most beautiful buildings, from the Alhambra to the Taj Mahal. But perhaps more importantly, Islamic civilization demonstrated humanity's capacity for creating inclusive, cosmopolitan societies. At its best, the Islamic world brought together people of different ethnicities, religions, and cultures under systems of law that emphasized justice and protection for minorities. The Ottoman millet system, Mughal religious tolerance, and Andalusi convivencia offered models of pluralistic governance that remain relevant today. The Islamic world also showed how civilizations adapt and transform while maintaining core identities. From the Arab conquests through the Turkish empires to modern nation-states, Islamic societies have continuously evolved while preserving fundamental religious and cultural values. This adaptability has allowed Islam to spread across incredibly diverse societies, from Morocco to Malaysia, from Bosnia to Bangladesh. Yet our story also reveals the challenges that all civilizations face. Political fragmentation, economic decline, military defeat, and social upheaval have repeatedly tested Islamic society's resilience. The colonial period forced Islamic civilizations to grapple with fundamental questions about tradition and modernity that continue to generate debate and conflict. The contemporary Islamic world reflects these ongoing tensions. Some Islamic societies have successfully combined Islamic identity with democratic governance and economic development. Others struggle with authoritarianism, economic stagnation, and social conflict. Still others experiment with different models of Islamic governance, from constitutional monarchies to theocratic republics. What's clear is that the Islamic world story is far from over. With nearly 2 billion adherents and rapidly growing populations in many Muslim countries, Islam will play an increasingly important role in global affairs. The choices made by Islamic societies about governance, economic development, and international relations will significantly influence the 21st century's trajectory. The rise of countries like Turkey, Indonesia, and Malaysia as regional powers demonstrates that Islamic societies can achieve prosperity and influence in the modern world. The continued vitality of Islamic scholarship, art, and culture shows that Islamic civilization remains a source of creativity and innovation. At the same time, the Islamic world faces significant challenges. Extremist movements that distort Islamic teachings for political purposes threaten both Muslim societies and global security. Economic inequality, political oppression, and social injustice in many Muslim countries fuel discontent and instability. Sectarian conflicts between Sunni and Shia Muslims continue to destabilize entire regions. Perhaps most importantly, Islamic societies must navigate the tension between maintaining religious and cultural authenticity while participating fully in an increasingly interconnected global civilization. This challenge isn't unique to Islam. All traditional societies face similar pressures, but it's particularly acute given Islam's comprehensive approach to organizing human life. The history we've explored suggests reasons for both concern and optimism. Islamic civilization has repeatedly demonstrated remarkable resilience, creativity, and adaptability. From the Abbasid synthesis of Greek and Islamic learning to the Ottoman integration of Turkish, Arabic, and Persian cultures, Islamic societies have historically excelled at creating new syntheses from diverse elements. The contemporary Islamic world includes examples of successful modernization that maintain Islamic identity. Countries like Malaysia and Turkey have achieved significant economic development while preserving their Islamic heritage. Organizations like the Islamic Society of North America and the Islamic Society of Britain show how Muslim minorities can contribute positively to diverse societies. Educational institutions like Al-Azhar University in Egypt and the International Islamic University Malaysia continue the Islamic tradition of scholarly excellence while engaging with modern knowledge. Islamic finance, with its emphasis on ethical investing and prohibition of usury, offers alternative approaches to economic development that attract both Muslim and non-Muslim interest. As we conclude this epic journey, perhaps the most important lesson is that Islamic civilization, like all great civilizations, is not a monolith, but a continuous conversation across time and space. The debates that began in 7th century Medina about justice, governance, and human dignity continue today in Jakarta, Istanbul, Cairo, and Casablanca. The young people growing up in Islamic societies today will write the next chapters of this story. They will decide how Islamic values interact with global culture, how Islamic societies respond to technological change, and how Islamic civilization contributes to addressing humanity's shared challenges. If history is any guide, their solutions will be creative, diverse, and surprising. Islamic civilization has always been at its best when it combined fidelity to core principles with openness to new ideas, when it balanced spiritual commitments with practical governance, when it served as a bridge between different cultures rather than a barrier between them. The story of Islamic civilization is ultimately a human story, one of faith and doubt, triumph and defeat, creativity and destruction, hope and despair. It reminds us that civilizations are not inevitable or eternal, but are constantly created and recreated by human choices and actions. As our world becomes increasingly interconnected, understanding this rich and complex history becomes ever more important. The Islamic world's past offers both warnings about the dangers of extremism and fragmentation, and inspiration about the possibilities of pluralistic civilization and intellectual achievement. The next chapter of Islamic history is being written now in the streets of Cairo, the universities of Kuala Lumpur, the parliaments of Ankara, and the mosques of Dearborn.
It will be shaped by how well Islamic societies balance their rich heritage with the demands of an interconnected world, how effectively they address the aspirations of their young populations, and how successfully they contribute to our shared human future. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through 1,400 years of Islamic history. The story continues, and in many ways, we are all part of writing it.